Recording started live. Okay, here we go. I think we're live now.
I think
Maybe.
we're live. I don't know. I guess let's check this out.
Yeah.
If anyone's watching, this is our first time using vid StreamYard, so don't skewer us in the comments, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we know a lot about data science, nothing about streaming.
Yeah, I just press button. That's all I do. You know.
Yeah.
Crap. Okay. Let's see. I think what it does is it posts after it's done recording because that's probably what happened with Jackson. But then he had like a link that he
No,
gave
no,
out to
it's
people.
live. This thing is supposed to like stream live, right? And it's
Oh,
supposed to
really?
do multiple it's supposed to do multiple things too. Cyber fam, let's see. Cyber fam.
All right. Let me just
Oh,
put it on.
congrats, man. You hit the 2K mark.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna announce it on Twitter. If no one catches it, yeah, hold on. I'm just gonna call myself out as a noob.
Huh? No, it's supposed to be on YouTube.
All right, whatever. I posted
Okay.
out there in the ether, man, calling myself a noob. So it is what it is. What happens, happens.
I think I just see this join live. I'm a noob on streaming, so I don't know what happened after I press record. Wish me luck. That's funny. All right. All right, man. So today you heard some big news with Palantir. They're finally releasing some information about getting some certifications outside of
Yeah,
their core FDEs. You know?
yeah, man. That's it's funny. The few things that I was waiting for with this company was like I wanted to see what kind of APIs they would release for the public side of it, as well as exactly this the certifications, right?
Yeah.
Because really, why would you even need to release certifications or anything unless you have like a roadmap of partners that you're planning to go with, or there's a certain list of clients that you're going to onboard, and they
Yeah.
need a structure, right? Because these guys, like a lot of these companies out there now, they're so used to the existing structure where everybody's got some certification or some level of thing where they're like, hey, our employees want to learn more about your product, but they want an official paper to say that they've learned about it, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's a really good, to me, is a huge bullish sign because it just shows that they're going up from here, right?
I also think like from what I've seen, anyone who's trying to scale beyond, just going like a few companies here and there,
Yeah,
they usually hit they usually hit that point where they're just like, look, we need to get third parties involved. We need to get
yeah, yeah,
system integrators to get involved with this because there's no way we can hire so many forward deployed engineers to help out with this. So, you want that onboarding process to be really smooth, but then also at the same time, you want people to it's like a word of mouth thing, right?
no,
Where
for sure.
I know for me, like in our industry in healthcare, we have EHRs, which is like, like there used to be a ton of EHRs. Now they're kind of consolidating into like a few. The main one that like I use right now is Epic, right? And
Okay, okay.
once you get Epic certified, it's like one of those things that opens so many doors for you, right? But the other thing is, um, now if you go to another job, because of that certification, and if they're not using Epic and you know all the benefits of it, you're always actively pushing for that facility, that the hospital or that organization to get Epic.
No, it's totally true. So like, when you actually go and apply, if those of you don't know, like when you go and apply to some of these jobs that have multiple systems that they're using, there's actually a full section for certifications. It'll ask you, what kind of extra certifications do you have. There's a whole list of it, or you can type it out yourself, but there's 100% a section. I just did this like 2 weeks ago, and they were asking for all sorts of. They had a list of requirements, and
Yeah.
it's a big thing. I mean, as things progress, Palantir is going to be added to the list, or these certifications are going to have a higher weight when you try to apply for jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah. The other thing is I've been constantly looking every couple of weeks, like, okay, what's going on with like the job market? Like how many employers are looking for people with Palantir experience?
Oh, okay.
One thing I've noticed is it's just growing. It's like
Is it?
constantly growing. Yeah. Yeah. There's
Holy
a
shit,
lot of
man.
people. Now it's how like usually what they'll do is they won't like some companies will just put out like, yeah, we're looking for people with Palantir
Yeah,
found experience. Like they'll just be blunt about it.
yeah,
But the ones that are like usually third parties and stuff, they'll say like, oh yeah, we need people with experience in SQL, Power BI,
yeah,
Tableau.
yeah.
And now Palantir Foundry is becoming slowly an industry standard. So
Yeah.
now that's also part of that HR package to say, if we're looking for a data scientist, Palantir Foundry qualifies as a platform that you can use as relevant experience to do your job.
No,
You know,
it's true. Yeah.
that's not 100% confirmed that they're working with Palantir, but it just means that what we consider this to be a lifelong product, is something that is equivalent to what's out there in the market. And also, I think when you look at it, having someone with Palantir Foundry experience, and since the product is really good, they'll
Yeah.
be the biggest advocates once they
Oh
join.
man. Yeah, like it's such you hit the nail on the head there, because the funny thing is, right? You remember when Tableau was a thing, when it was just by itself, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Back in, I think, what was it, 2014, 15, when I was like starting to get into some data stuff,
yeah,
Tableau was huge. And what Tableau did, which is amazing, was make the data visualize so much better, right? Kind of
yeah,
like what
yeah.
Palantir is doing now with part of its Foundry modules.
Hmm.
But at that time, there were so few people that had like what's it called, Tableau,
Yeah,
any sort of certification experience, that people, like companies, would hire them just because they were going to work with Tableau later on,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's almost like they're treating them as an asset, right? Just
yeah.
because, even if they're not working at that time, I'm sure there's not that many people that would, even if they have certifications right now, or they've been running this pilot for, let's say, like 5-6 months,
Yeah.
there's probably not that many people that have it. So these guys can probably command quite a bit of salary if you
Yeah.
really wanted
I
to, right?
remember, I think I forgot exactly how much Salesforce paid for Tableau, but it was a big
Yo,
amount of
it was
money. It wasn't
big.
like some small, and think about it, Tableau, what does it do? It just does data visualization. It doesn't
Yeah,
do half the things that Palantir Foundry
yeah,
does, like all the write back features, all the data
yeah,
transformation, the
yeah,
multiple things. I mean, Tableau was literally just, you take a database, put it into Tableau, connect, you do the
yep,
connectors, and now it
yeah,
just makes things really simple and easy for you to visualize, right? So you don't have
yeah,
to constantly create Excel spreadsheets and keep doing charting. It did all
yeah,
this stuff for
yeah.
you. Yeah.
No, for sure. Like Tableau is really good at it. They were really good at that final step. So like Microsoft has this really old program called like SSAS, basically. It's the
Mhm.
analytic part of it, right? This whole
Yeah.
process. That did it kind of a similar thing, where it like did some automated stuff. There was a whole process behind it, right? But they
Mhm.
took that one piece and they just made it like that much better. That's what Tableau did, right?
Yep.
So in a way, it helped some folks, and I think it actually opened up a whole, like, people didn't even understand that they could do that kind of stuff. So now it's like, I think Foundry and stuff is just going to catch fire after that, because they have the whole package. It's not just that end visualization part, right?
Yep. The
Yeah, I
thing is,
know that.
oh, and by the way, Tableau, guess how much it went for? It went for almost $16 billion.
Really?
That's how much Salesforce paid for it. So when you just think about valuation, Palantir being at 30 some odd billion right now,
Yeah.
and with Tableau, that's literally doesn't do, I wouldn't even say probably like a third of what Palantir did.
No, no. It does
Imagine.
the yeah, it does the final component before the decision's made. It does that
Yep.
presentation side of it, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sure. Like they were. I remember at one time they were onboarding clients left, right, and center, because honestly, that was a big void in the whole data community,
Yep.
right? Like people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fantastic data scientists. I'm not one of them. I know a lot of people have been asking me. I don't work with data. I work with infrastructure. But the
Yeah.
thing is, a lot of good like data people. And the thing is, the one thing that they were missing was the fact that when it went to the analysts, because at some point it's going to get out of the hands of the data guys, right? It's going to go
Yeah.
into the people that do more analysis, reporting, and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
Before it gets there, there was nothing, right? And the
Yeah.
things that were there were so stupid and rudimentary that it wouldn't have made a difference. So Tableau filled that void. But now
Yeah.
it's like, it was a single purpose kind of thing. It was a very narrow thing. Sure, it
Yeah.
did a good job, but yeah, I mean, I'm really curious what Salesforce is going to do with this, because they bought a few of these, right? They got like a few of these companies that do data type of stuff.
Yeah.
They got to smash it together and do something, man, or else they're going to be dead in the water.
So one of the things that I noticed was, um, Salesforce. What they've been doing is, any of these utility softwares that come on, right, that
Yeah,
kind of help the enterprise, what they'll do is they'll buy them out, and they'll kind of like stack them right into their ecosystem, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing that I see a lot of things happen. So the way that I heard it in CodeStrap, actually, I was listening to some of his old videos when he was talking about Palantir, and he
yeah,
was like, yeah, when you think about it, there's a lot of companies out there that create hammers, and then there's other ones that have tons of, like, a bag of hammers. So you can build something yourself, right?
yeah,
Palantir Foundry doesn't do that. They're not a bag of hammers. They're a
yeah.
complete product, so that you don't have to hire like a dozen data scientists to kind of fill that gap. You can actually, like, an average person can do it, but then
I know.
also have the ability to write back to it. It can take all these sorts of disparate, data sources, put them together. So like I said, I think the functionality is the key, right?
Yeah.
And the functionality is growing every day. Every
Oh
time
yeah.
I see these new demos, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
it's yeah,
And they're learning too, right? That's the funny thing. People always confused about how, oh my God, they're stealing our data and all this stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
what they're actually doing is just they're taking the what all these analysts and how they're taking the decisions that are being given to them and
yeah,
how they're analyzing and what kind of decisions are being made, using that as sort of a building block to go to the next feature or the next product or that kind of. It's like it's almost like a positive feedback loop of just ideas that just spin up from your own logging basically, which is I think
yeah.
really cool. But you mentioned CodeStrap. Whoever's watching, if you guys don't know, like there's a guy named CodeStrap on YouTube. He had some like really in-depth, like I'm not even close to in-depth when it comes to these guys. So go check out his YouTube channel. There's a few videos there, but there's one on I think Foundry. It was like really, really cool, super in-depth. It's pretty technical, but if you really want to learn, go to his channel. He'll go really in-depth on it. So show him some love.
Last couple of videos he did, he was ranting about Snowflake and what the analysts were like valuing Snowflake, and it's like Snowflake is just a columnar database. Like y'all need to understand that. Like stop with this. Snowflake is like the next coming, and I'm like the same exact thing. I was like, okay, this, it's
Dude,
interesting. It's definitely
people
interesting.
don't get it. Snowflake like is not a it's not competition for Palantir. Snowflake is a disruptor in the existing SaaS world.
Yeah,
Like it might go and disrupt SAP. Like Snowflake is just going to clear the way for Palantir if anything, right?
yeah,
Like I think it's a good company. It's not like no, I don't think anyone's cheating on the company. To be honest, it might
yeah.
be a good company. There, so at my work, we use a data lake option for Snowflake. It's a great
Hmm.
product. It's not like
Yeah.
terrible or anything. It's much better than what we move from AWS.
Hmm.
So it's not it's a very good product. They make it very easy for you to move your data over and stuff like that, but it comes with its quirks, and the quirks are the same as every bloody thing else in the industry. Like everything
Yeah,
else that comes with your typical SaaS product, it's like that. And if
yeah,
you need help, then you go through the professional services. All of everything, every interaction you have with them is very similar to what you would have with any other company
right.
currently, right?
Yeah,
And that's the thing. Like, oh, by the way, like any developer, the one thing we have in common is that we just complain about everything. That's
yeah,
our job is we're just miserable people. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The other cool thing I want to just speak about that recently, like that's been happening around Palantir. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm a bag holder. I got in
yeah,
at a high price,
yeah,
and it does it does suck that we're dealing with these lower prices. But at the same time, remember, this is an industry wide thing that's happening. It's
yeah,
one
yeah,
thing. If Palantir was the only one that was down 40-50%,
yeah.
everyone is rotating their money out of tech and going into growth. But
Mm,
whenever that tends to happen, there is an opportunity. You know, a lot of times there's oversold conditions, and I think we're starting to hit a point where now we're getting into oversold condition because all these companies, especially in tech, fundamentally there's nothing wrong. People are
yeah,
still using the technology. People are
yeah,
still actively pursuing data science. People are actively pursuing
yeah.
e-commerce. So don't think that, hey, listen, there's an industry wide bubble. The biggest difference between 2000 and what's happening now is that in 2000 people were paying billions of dollars for diaper.com with no real revenues, no real profit.
Pets.com.
you know
Yeah.
Today what's happening is there definitely was overvaluation, but it's correcting, right? It's not like crazy amounts
Mm,
of just random money parking themselves in something that could be. There's, like I said, there's still things that are going. Like one of the companies that I'm looking, like I really really like right now is
yeah.
CrowdStrike, because
Okay.
I see my company use it. I see almost every hospital that I've gone to, they have one way or another a partnership with CrowdStrike. Because if you think that Russian hackers are done, dude, no. Everyone is going to need cloud-based security systems all over the country, and guess what? All over the world. So their
Yeah.
total addressable market is growing day by day by day.
Oh, I believe it. Just to address that real quick, a lot of people think you don't. I have so many stories, but I'll give you one story about sort of like a cyber attack, right? So there was a situation where we were moving infrastructure into AWS, and I was basically there was a guy who helped onboard me. Like this was a new job for me, like 3 months in,
Yeah.
and he like onboarded me, helped me onboard me, and he's like, "Hey man, I really like the stuff you do." Blah blah blah. So I'm like, you know what, man, let me help you out. I'll talk to your manager. We'll bring him up, right? So he became like part of my team. basically, right? Now the story of it is, as we were migrating, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you some tasks. Why don't you learn on the job, do your thing, right? So he had some tasks and he's doing something. Really good guy, awesome worker, and all this stuff, right? But because like we don't, not everyone's an expert, right? Actually, quite a few people are experts, myself not included. I'm not an expert, but what ended up happening was he followed the steps. But there's some things that you only know if you have done it a few times, right? Things like turn off. Like for example, throw away the key after you use it for one time, right? So at that time we were using the root key, you throw it away. Basically, you have to go based on like a role-based system. You should know that, right? But I totally forgot, my mistake. I didn't tell him. He didn't figure it out. Boom, we got hacked. We literally got attacked, and the attack was like somebody came in and started spinning up VMs like crazy. So for that 1 month, the regular cost went from about $5,000 a month to like $40,000 a month. So in a week, right? So we had protocols that shut it off, but simple things like that, like this is only growing, to your point, right? This kind of concern, like the cloud, people think that cloud growth is done. It's not. People don't even fully understand what it is, and even the cloud providers are just increasing their offerings and stuff like that. So this is definitely going to be a long-term futuristic thing for quite a long time. I can already put my name on that for sure.
Yeah. Like for us, like I remember maybe like 3-4 years ago, I finally started getting like access to our app servers, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember like I was like, man, all these dual factor authentications, like I hate it. It's a pain because literally like you forget your phone somewhere, you do that, you can't do half of your job. But after what happened to Colonial Pipeline, dude, I understand it. I still remember the weekend when it was like, dude, once these guys get into your system, and especially if they get into like really high network access, and I'm like, man, I don't think I could ever work in a situation where dual factor authentication wasn't a must.
No, agreed.
It's nuts. Yeah. So I would say cybersecurity is like a still one of those like really like a bottom level things where you're going to see still continued growth. And the other thing is like CrowdStrike, and I think a lot of these companies, they're scalable like there is no tomorrow. Once you on the platform, it's quick installs, getting them on your app servers, getting them rooted into your stuff.
They're agent based, right?
It's high margin revenue.
They're agent based, right? CrowdStrike.
Yeah. And everything that you need, literally, it just gets downloaded right into your system.
Oh, gotcha.
You're not like running around with USB drives or like DVDs like back in the days trying to update stuff,
Floppy disk, like 40 floppy disks.
So it's interesting. This is where like a lot of people need to just take a step back when it comes to tech and not be so pessimistic, right? And when you're investing, you're investing for 10 years into the future. So if you have points where markets are getting like really irrational like they are right now, dude, I'd calm down, save some money, buy some stuff that you were going to buy that you would have happily paid for 6 months ago.
Absolutely.
For half the price,
You know what, man? I'll tell you what it is too. Half of the people, including myself, we're just basically out of money. We've been buying dips like crazy all the way down. And in my case, it's like, I mean, everyone on my channel knows this, but I have like a tax bill coming up, right? So I'm like, shit, I can't spend this, right? But everyone in my comments like, man, I bought the dip enough. What am I going to do? Just flip tables because like all that's happening is going down, right? Like Palantir is crashing support after support. But at the end of the day, this is what I did when like during 2020 actually, right? Like when that whole like massive crash happened. If you don't have money to continue buying dips, you use that time and just do research, right? So like because you're sort of in it anyway, it's in your head anyway, right? So just use that time and do your research so that when you actually do get the money, you can put it in if you want to.
Yep. For me, I like, that's why I DCA. I tried doing the old school way of just buying a whole bunch of things and just holding on to them for a long time. But I realized DCAing gives you that peace of mind that when prices go down, you're buying a little bit more, and since you're averaging down, it feels good. Like, I'm getting this I'm not getting this. I didn't lose money. I'm just getting a discount. And
dollar cost averaging works, man. There's like stats. Have you watched Chicken Genius Singapore on YouTube?
Yeah.
Dude, that guy is like DCA proponent number one. And like I dollar cost average for almost everything before. Now I do like massive red day buys where it's like if it drops over like 2-3%, I'm like, okay, I'll put some money in there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like
dude,
he was showing some stats.
do you know why that guy puts like the mic on like different like things? Like one time he put it on like a spatula, another time he put it like some kind of like weird thing like a remote control.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's just got like this stick about him that's like really funny,
Dude,
man.
I
At
think
first I
I think
thought he
he's
was
like a
making, huh?
yeah, I think he's like a minimalist. So like he's just such a funny guy. He's like a minimalist,
Yeah,
and if you could do anything, he's like the standard of look what I'm doing. I'm literally sharing just content. I don't have any fancy equipment except for like LED lights,
yeah,
and like I have tons of followers. So
yeah.
what an inspiration, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's been a big Tesla bull forever, man. So,
Oh man,
and he's
yeah,
done really well for himself too.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, and he was I think he was like an ex-military guy too back over there. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, man, like now
Mhm.
since we're already on the topic, like what got you into Palantir? You know, like what made you? What was the aha moment for you, so to speak?
Mhm.
Right? Like, you know?
So for me, the first thing was it was Peter Thiel, right? Like
Yeah.
I
Okay.
started reading Zero to One, and I was like, okay, let me understand this. And Palantir was mentioned there more than a few times, right? And I started to see some correlations there, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? This is actually a really good idea. And when you see like Peter Thiel and all these companies that he's invested in,
Hmm.
and like especially the ones that are founder led, they've done very well. They've done massive amounts of gains, right?
Yeah.
So when I looked at it, I was like, okay, you know what? I keep hearing about it and I keep seeing Palantir on here. Let me take a look. Let me see what this is about. Why isn't, and then I started to really dig deep saying, okay, why aren't they public yet? They seem to be like really necessary.
Yeah.
And then my job started to kind of shift over a little bit into the more in the IT space. And so I was like, okay, let me see, how this kind of plays into my day
Yeah.
to day. And then I realized that all the gaps that I had in my work were being filled by a company like Palantir. I was like, everything that I want, this company has, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am always trying to understand it. Like, okay, how is a company going to do more? How is a corporation going to do more? And I come from like healthcare, right? So it's not even something that's like just run the mill, like just manufacturing a widget or something. It's a very complicated field to be in. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what are some of the use cases? And then when I started to really dig deep into it, I'm like, man, they have so many use cases.
Yeah. That's
And
true. Yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, let me take a further look into it. I started hearing about, a lot of the negative sides. Because whenever you look at a company, you always have to look at the negatives. And when I looked at the negatives, it was literally things around like, oh, they work with ice. I'm like, dude, you think ice doesn't work with Windows or Mac or that?
Man.
Every company works with ice, maybe not directly, but they work with all these other organizations. And I also looked at their mission. The other thing is when I was in the military, I had no idea about Palantir, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
It was not even a thought. But everything that when they show their Gotham product, I'm like, man, I wish we had this like when we were in Afghanistan. So it just comes back to um, a service that I think and I believe in, and I think that has a lot of future growth ahead of it.
Yeah.
We're in the early stages. One of the things that I always see that I don't understand, and that's that they keep saying their addressable markets like a 55 million billion here, 55.
Yeah.
And when I really research, I'm like, no, your total addressable market is close to a trillion, if not more.
Yeah.
You're disrupting so many things. And I asked a few of my friends, I was like, why do they keep understating their TAM so much?
You,
And they're
you know
like,
what I think it is, man.
yeah,
To be honest, I think
mhm,
I think they're definitely selling themselves short for sure,
yeah,
right? What I
yeah,
also think is as they start disrupting, some of these market values will come down, right? So even if it was like one full trillion, it'll probably be at like 500 and then grow again from
yeah,
there as
mhm,
new lines of business open up. That's probably at one. And two, they got to give something to Wall Street. I think that's the problem here. They have to give something, so they are themselves giving their projections from a lens of traditional SaaS.
yeah,
So they're like, okay, you want something here from the lens of traditional SaaS, 55 billion. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because like they can't explain the whole idea of like the entire ecosystem sort of software that they're providing
yeah,
through the lens of Salesforce or through the lens of SAP or something, right? It
yeah.
just doesn't fit exactly because then they're like, okay, what about this? What about this feature? It doesn't make sense. So I think that's probably why they do that.
The other thing I think also is that they're trying not to alert people that they're going to end up disrupting,
You think
right?
so?
I definitely think so. Like
Okay, okay. Who do you have as the first to be on the chopping block? Now that we're already on the topic.
I would say, in terms of market share,
Yeah.
the ones that they got to worry about are, to be fair with you, technically nobody. Technically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what they're trying to do is create a monopoly, saying that, hey, listen, we're not competing with any of you guys. We you
Yeah.
can use SAP, you can use Oracle, you can use Salesforce, but what I think is happening is
Do
they're
you know the
saying, you know
show?
what,
Do you
we're
know the
going to
show Beat Bobby Flay?
be Bobby Flay.
Yeah, on Food
I've
Network.
heard of it. I've heard of it.
So in the show, he goes. So they're basically two chefs come in, right, and they have to basically. The goal is one of them has to win against the other, and then the final one will face Bobby Flay. But
Mhm.
he says in the beginning when they come in, he's like, "You're gonna get to me. Your goal is to beat me, but first
Mhm.
you have to go through each other."
Right.
So
Yeah.
it reminds me of like Palantir, where it's like, "Oh, we're here playing on our own. You guys
Yeah.
gotta go through each other first."
Yeah. Well, it's something that, once again, I keep going right back to what, like, that guy Code Strap said, and he said, some of the products that, like, Palantir has, they already exist in the market. Like, one of
Mm.
the ones that if you look at Foundry and if you look at Amazon SageMaker, right, they
Hmm.
have a lot of similarities.
Yeah,
But here's the difference: Amazon does not care about SageMaker. They're concerned about getting more clients to use
yeah,
their compute, right? So
yep,
how do
yep,
you do that? Well, you see Palantir is growing, so you're like, you know what? We need to partner with Palantir. We need to get more people on our
yeah,
AWS using, because that's what they care about. Their metrics are all about how much more compute can we sell to people. Well, guess what? Palantir's not selling compute. Palantir is saying, no, no, keep all your data,
yeah,
keep all the the compute. We don't care about that stuff right now. But here's the thing: it's right now. Who knows in the
mm,
future if they're like, you know what? Maybe we'll come up with our own cloud service.
yeah.
I
You know,
doubt
I
it. I
can,
doubt it. But
yeah, I
you know,
can see them doing like a data center operations, like a almost like an optimization model for like data centers or for AWS or for Azure
yeah.
data centers, and that could
The
be.
other thing that I really like about Palantir, when it comes right back to that, is that they're going for that hybrid model, right? Where
Yeah,
they're like, you know what, whether you have an on-prem data center, you have AWS, you have Google Cloud, you have Microsoft, it's all good. We'll work with whoever.
yeah,
We'll get them integrated. And this way, I think what it is no matter what vendor you go with, all the vendors are going to be competing for
yeah.
Palantir, right?
No, true. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's going to be another big thing. So we'll see. I think IBM is probably going to IBM is
yeah,
trying to eat into AWS, right? They're like, you
yeah,
know what, we'll give you this hybrid model if you use some of our resources, you know. So I think right now AWS is kind of scared of IBM, believe it or not, which you wouldn't think so, but you know,
I don't know, man.
but I don't think that Palantir is going to like pretty much take market share from the ERP and CRM space. But
Yeah,
what they're going, well, for now, let's just say for now,
I
they're
got
not
you.
going to take anything. But what's to say that one day they don't buy an ERP suite of their own?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
and say,
think
you
they
know what?
have ERPs. They have like HyperAuto's kind of pretty much an ERP for the most part from a
Yeah,
very basic component level. I think they even have some kind of CRM product, but like you're right, it's not their main business. That's like
yeah,
they could do that if they wanted to, and I think they even put out those lines of businesses just to prove, really you want a CRM, here you go,
yeah,
here's a CRM, right?
yep,
So in a way, everyone's trying to fit them into a lane where they're competing with your incumbents, but in reality, they're already playing in their own sandbox. So
yeah,
yeah, no, but so for me, I think I don't like you said. I'm in the same boat. Like I don't think they're directly going to you know push anyone out, so to speak. But I think the first one to go, because of market effects and because of network effects, I think is going to be SAP. To be honest with you,
yeah,
those guys are just like they've stagnated for at least 4 years now, in my
yeah,
opinion, right? But I
yep,
think those guys are going to go, and not because of Palantir, just because Palantir put a little bit of pressure right now on whoever else, Salesforce,
mhm,
Microsoft, whoever, right? Because Power
yeah,
BI is a decent product. It just doesn't do
yeah,
half the things that Palantir does, more than half, right?
yeah,
But it's going to apply a little bit of pressure, and then Microsoft and Salesforce are just going to look at SAP and be like, you know what, screw you. We don't like. There's not enough room for all of us, and then you're going to start these companies just falling apart. It's
yeah,
kind of, well, it's kind of like whole like IBM where it was just 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now they're trying to kick it back, but for a while they were just stagnant.
yeah. And I think that's the thing, right? Yesteryear's main products are not what's going to be here today. If you don't
Mm,
innovate, to the point where people are going to want to use you, you're going to lose market share. And once you start losing market share, then like your employees are going to start jumping. Once your employees start jumping, then
Oh man.
you don't have that.
Yeah.
You have that brain drain.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of SAP stuff, they're literally relying on all their old contracts, which, like you said last time, all these old time people that just they don't necessarily like SAP, but they're like, yeah, we want to hold on to you because that's what we know, and we don't want to make the investment in
That
something.
is their version of innovating.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, this space right now, and like if I had to categorize it, like I don't want to be ageist or whatever, but most of the people that are at these positions are more like anywhere between like 45 to 50, like
yeah,
older 50s, right?
yep,
I don't blame them. I get it. Like the thing that they're saying is if everything works, like why move? And the problem is for them, it's like if we're gonna go to retirement, then we need something familiar. If everyone jumps on Palantir, they have nowhere to go.
yeah,
Like their whole experience in the old world.
yep.
So I get the fear, but it's a huge thing. I address this on like literally every video. That's one of the big things I'm looking for, because these guys, man, like one of them. The thing is, even if one big player or even a medium-sized player jump in and they start churning, like how Skywise is churning, how
Hmm.
I'm sure Athenia is going to start churning,
Yeah,
it's going to really stir the nest, right? And then everyone's going to start jumping in. I
yeah.
don't know. I feel like there's a floodgate moment.
Oh yeah, I'd say give it about 3-4 more years.
That's
They're
what I'm
right
thinking.
now. They're slowly building these platforms out, right?
Yeah,
And like I said, almost every month you're starting to see new platforms kind of being developed that are industry standard platforms, right?
yeah,
Like right now, with like this week we saw the one with the EV, right?
yeah,
There is
yeah,
definitely a huge gap because there's so many EV charging companies like starting to come up now, and
yeah,
they're all consolidating. But the thing is, you need to have like a unified framework because
yeah.
when I'm a driver, I'm trying to get to the nearest charging station. I really, to be fair with you, if I'm in a position, I don't necessarily care whether your Blink, your Ionity, or your Charge Point. I
I'm
just
with
want
you
to
too,
charge my
man.
car,
Yeah,
right? Now the thing is, like, if those companies aren't talking to each other, that's a huge market gap that they're not filling, right? It's
yeah,
almost like the way that I would kind of put this um like with the airlines when you have like code sharing agreements between the airlines saying, listen,
yep, yep,
even though Delta and Aer Lingus are two different companies, if you use Aer Lingus as our partner, then guess what? Then
hmm
we'll consider some of the points like working, because I think that's what's going to happen. Instead of, if you're really trying to compete against Big Daddy Tesla, you're going to need to create some
yeah.
sort of infrastructure that talks to each other. That's going to say, hey, these are the stations that are open right now. These are the prices on them, and and all the other things that come with it. The EV charging infrastructure right now, they're more concerned about building out the infrastructure than getting it connected. And I
100%.
think
Yeah,
Palantir can definitely serve as that overlay to kind of connect all of them together. And
yeah.
hopefully they become the default standard, right? Because at the end of the day, once everything is interconnected, all that is just revenue coming into Palantir's pockets.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, you know, on that point, it would be kind of interesting actually. Maybe we can talk about this when we do more research, but
Mhm.
to find out how their structure is when it comes to these deals and stuff, right? Because it's like, to be honest, I feel like they can really upsell their or not upsell, but increase the prices of their product. But just because we don't know if they're getting any kickbacks from Airbus or anything like that as they're onboarding, because they're building entire ecosystems. They're not building
Yeah,
like a single product that they can charge based on, like, I don't know, users, or you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, oh, if you have so many users and you have then we charge you X amount per month or something. It's not like that. The model is different. So
yeah,
I guess we can find out more and we can discuss
yeah.
it later.
I think in the future it will definitely get a better idea of it.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it's probably um, the total amount of revenue that the platform gets, and Palantir is getting a percentage of that, because that's
Yeah.
the structure that
Okay.
I've seen with other Peter Thiel companies also, where it's almost like in the number is nothing, like it's not going to be like a huge high number, like, oh, we want 50% of everything you collect, Airbus,
Yeah.
you have to give it
It's
to
the
us. Like, no,
mafia.
it's something small, but the way that it works is that the company that you're partnering with to create that platform feels like they're in charge and that they're getting the
Okay, I got you.
lion's share and you're getting a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's high margin revenue for you, right?
Oh
You're not
yeah.
hiring a ton of employees. They're doing all the work for the most part. All you're doing is providing platform services, and like new products and new firmware updates and new things like that, just to get things rolling, right? So I would say, if I had to guess, I'd say probably like maybe like between 10 to 20%,
Yeah,
depending
that's
on the
fair. That's
partnership.
healthy.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's totally healthy.
And yeah,
Actually,
and if you think about it, if they're gonna, let's say on average $1 billion, dude, I'm happy getting 100 million for not doing shit.
dude,
You know?
on that same point, this is my big problem. And ever since I started my investing journey, like what was it, like 3-4 years ago, I've been hearing this every time. And to be honest, this is what stopped me buying certain kinds of stocks, right?
Mhm.
And that's my fault because I didn't do enough research at the time, even though I was in the space. But I don't understand why everyone's freaking out about profitability with SaaS companies and stuff. Like, why is that such a big thing? I mean, you're probably more familiar with that side of the world in terms of finance, but for me, I know what it costs to build software. It's expensive, but the whole thing about software, and if you guys don't know, the thing about software is, yes, the initial upfront cost is high. When you build anything in-house, it's very tough because you have to hire the right talent. You have to make sure you pay them well. There's a cycle. You have to actually keep them for at least 2 to 3 years after the product is built, just for major updates. Basically, that's a best practice. It's an unspoken thing, right? But once the product is done, all you're paying is salary, and you only need to basically keep the core engineers, and then the rest of them either move down to R&D, or they go on anyway. Engineers, like good ones, don't really stay at a place longer than like 3-4 years unless they're getting crazy stock options. So
Yeah.
why I don't understand why people are so focused on this. Like they're like narrowed in on profitability for a SaaS company, which is ridiculous. Like, do you understand that?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what it is. It's a combination of two things. One, it depends on the analysts themselves, right?
Okay.
Analysts, they always have these metrics and they have these numbers, and they value companies purely based on numbers, right? And
Mm,
so they're like, well, Palantir is growing at 30% and Snowflake is growing at 100% a year. That means that Snowflake is more valuable. And that's the way that we should look at it, right? And it's like, yeah, but you're not looking at the total addressable market. You're not
yeah.
seeing that 10 years from now, Snowflake will still have what it has right now. Plus, they're going to be getting a few services on top of it. The total market potential as of right now for Snowflake is not nearly as high as it is for Palantir. So
Yeah.
I think what happens is when they look at other companies and they try to base their valuations on that, they'll do that. The other thing is SaaS right now, there are mature SaaS players out there that have revenue and are profitable. SAP is
Yeah.
profitable, right? So
Yeah.
they're like, well, how come SAP is making money and Palantir is not? So Palantir shouldn't be worth that much money. And it's like, yeah, but once again, go back to the total potential that you have. And
Yeah.
it's something that and it's not just SaaS, believe it or not, it's the same thing in the world too. Like when you look at certain things, like when you're doing like college football drafts, you have these metrics that some people go by, and they're like, they do something called a combine, right? Where they make
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the athlete run across the hall, run across, and they time or how long it takes them to catch a football. They never take into account those intangibles that are out there.
Tom
That
Brady, man.
Yeah, the only people that will really know what a company is worth is people that are in the industry, people that are actually using the product,
Or
people
have
that
seen that
actually,
whole process, right?
yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're the ones that can value it. Now, here's the thing: a person who's doing a lot of the valuations on like for like Goldman Sachs and for
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
whoever, they're not. They may have a tech background, but it's nothing that's knee deep into it like some of us, where we're
Okay, I got
actually
you.
using the product. So I think a lot of their valuation, a lot of their models, and they're also, remember, they're valuing like 10, 20, 30 companies at a time,
Mm,
right? So
okay.
they always are going to develop a bias towards things, because when they have, like, let's say you're looking at 20 companies and you see five of these companies, they're not generating profits, they're like constantly, in the negative in terms of net income.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, man, that's not a good company. We should look at that one. If you look at
Mm,
Amazon, up until 2015, Amazon was not profitable,
yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
were growing their revenues, but they were not profitable. Without AWS, Amazon would have died on the vine, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I think a lot of people have to realize, that right now Palantir is in scale mode. They're spending money. They're hiring like crazy. Yes, they are issuing shares with that share-based compensation,
Yeah.
but it's peanuts compared to the value that each of those engineers brings to the table. The
No,
other
that's
thing
fair.
is Palantir is paying for quality. I looked at the salaries on some of these Palantir employees, right? to onboard, and they're getting quite a bit of money compared to what Google and even Microsoft. So how do you compete on a talent level against Google, Microsoft, and a lot of the big ones? Well, the
Yeah.
only way you can do it is by giving a large equity to say, look, when you come on to our team, we're not just going to pay you a lot, but we're also going to give you the ability to do really, really well for yourself.
So on that point, I'll touch on that. I'll tell you why I got into Palantir, and then we'll go into that stock based thing for just a second, and then we'll cap it off because there's too much stuff to talk in one pod, man. But like
Yeah.
on that point, I'll tell you why. This is like my sort of like 200-foot view, okay?
Mhm.
And this is gonna piss off a lot of you like developers and stuff out there, right? But let me know if you feel this. A lot of people, especially now when people are trying to go to Fang, right? In my circle, what's immediate to me, most of the people that are going there for clout.
Yeah.
Straight up. They're not exactly amazing engineers. Some of them are good. It's not like they're all terrible or something. You have to pass the interview, right? But to be very honest with you, and you guys can do this if you want to get into Google and Fang, all you have to do is prepare algorithms for 6 months. Straight up. That's all you got to do, right? It depends on the team, of course. But Fang right now, all these big, Apple, Google, Amazon especially, and Facebook. Facebook's kind of choking, but outside of that, these guys, they know that there's an opportunity here, and they're just soaking up talent like crazy because they don't want them to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're not specifically doing anything other than the fact that they're just a talent bank, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that provides here is, and by the way, where I get that, remember I was telling you about the breach story just earlier in the pod.
Mhm.
2 of the guys that I trained that were involved in the breach work there now. So,
What is it called?
so
Rest and invest. I mean, no. What is it? I forgot what the term is. Rest and vest.
best,
That's what
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
You know?
So I'm telling you that's what's happening. But the good thing is the caveat to this is as these people are sort of going there for cloud I'm not saying everyone, just there's a large majority, okay?
Mhm.
So as these guys are going there for cloud, the really like core engineers, again, like I don't consider myself one of them. I'm still learning and stuff, but there are a few guys out there that live, breathe, and die with like efficiency. That's their thing,
Yeah.
right? These guys, they don't want to be at Google. They love to work there for sure. I'm sure like they won't mind it, but in reality, they want to go where where the future is, right? They
Yeah.
want to build stuff because the thing is now in software, no one's really building stuff anymore, right?
Yeah.
Even in my job, that's why I transitioned over to infrastructure because before when I was developing, when I was doing all the onboarding stuff for all these softwares, I used to actually build like completely brand new from for like line one code type of like applications from scratch. That's really cool. It's really fun. You go through the works of how to build an application, all the processes. I even had 2 startups from the stuff. So that's really invigorating. But most developers nowadays just use sort of like something that's passed down to them, and
Yeah.
they're okay doing that. And Google's okay giving you that because that's
Yeah.
the stage they're at right now, right? Um, but most of these core guys that really want to just build something and they want to put their name on it, right? Because there's
Yeah.
comments, you can put your name on it. They'll go to Palantir, they'll go to Tesla, they'll go to
Yeah.
like SpaceX and all,
SpaceX. Yep.
So,
Yep.
and that's why actually SpaceX and Tesla's up there, right? In terms of
Yeah.
like where people want to go. This makes sense. It makes sense. Why wouldn't you go to GM? Actually, people don't know this, but like I okay, maybe I won't say their name, but like there was I did like a quick screening for a legacy auto, and I didn't go through with it because the tech stack that they were going through is a little bit antiquated. Of course, we don't know what they're really doing. Maybe they're doing revolutionary stuff, but the thing is, they're trying to stay alive by doing what other people did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And like the pay was good, right? People could go there, and I'm sure whoever filled the role would have a good time there, and they're making good money and all that. But we're not building anything. It's more of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, yes, a lot of people are going to Google and it's a talent sink, but the real core engineers will want to do something, work with their hands, so to speak. Right. So
Yeah.
I think Palantir's got it good. They know what they're doing.
And that's the thing. Whenever I see these interviews with regards to the engineers, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about changing the world. If
Yeah.
you think that you can figure out how to change the world by getting more girls to be on Instagram, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or how to sell more things on Google, how to connect one more merchant to Google so people,
Yeah.
people can buy the shit that they don't need. Like it's becoming. Google was revolutionary 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that revolution is gone, and now all they're doing is just creating new use cases for the things that that already exist, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, there are certain divisions within those companies that are really, really doing
Oh
well,
yeah.
and they are
Yeah.
like next generation things like AI. Like Google probably has some of the best AI engineers on the planet, right?
Actually, on that point, Chris, you should
Yeah.
look up DV360.
Yeah.
Right, babe? DV360? Yeah, so DV360 is like this marketing sort of like a platform, right? But
Mhm.
how it actually does provide insight. So this is all for the first party and third party data that come in,
Mhm.
right? With that programmatic advertising and stuff used. But it does do things like go through data sets and actually provide insights that people can go and execute on. So
Yeah.
I think Google especially is one of those companies that, and there's a website for it where they have like a what is it called, Google Graveyard or something, right?
Yeah.
Where they have all these projects that are just, and some of
Yeah.
them are actually companies now that other people are doing, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Google is definitely trying. I think they know that they're stagnant. They're just like, crap, we
Yeah.
got to do something.
Yeah.
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 Sorry,
Like I
man. I
said,
cut
right
you off.
now, I think what it comes down to is just they're trying to make more money. So they're trying to sell more
Yeah.
compute. That's where I see the market going for a lot of these legacy players, because Google is what, number three in terms of
Yeah.
cloud, right?
Yeah.
They're getting their butts handed to them by AWS and Azure, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft is actually doing really well on that front. But the
They're
thing is,
good.
with the thing I like about Microsoft is that, well, once they got Satya Nadella, dude, when you get these Indian CEOs, they just come in and they're like, look, man, like, we're not gonna do shit like the old school people. When he took over, I was like, all right, you know what? I want to see what this guy's gonna do. And he knew,
Yeah.
like, listen, we need to like throw down all the walls, close them down.
Yeah.
So put Office right into the cloud, right? Start to get subscription revenue from that. Said, no, we're going to open it up to Mac, to whoever. We're going to be as
Yeah. Yeah.
vendor agnostic, because we are going to generate everything we can. I'm telling you, once you get that Indian CEO, especially from the tech world in there, dude, if there's one thing they know how to do is make money. They'll
You know,
figure it out.
part of that is because I think they just like the goal to chase success is stronger than like competition, so to speak. So you're
Yeah,
almost competing by design. Like
yeah,
the thing that Satya did, I think that resonates with me the most is the fact that he made it okay to not be first at everything before with like Bomber and all these guys, right? Microsoft was like, oh, they made an iPod, let's go make the Zune. Oh, it's like they're always one step behind and they're trying to compete. Whereas now they're like, okay, it's fine. Let's take second, but let's take a strong second,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like, let's make sure that we plant our flag in second place and nobody else comes for us, right? So
yeah, yeah,
it's I think there's a realization at Microsoft, and a lot of people are moving back to there now. Like I know a few people that went back to Microsoft just because
yeah,
they want to see what the direction is at, right? But I
yeah,
know what you mean. Like the whole legacy thing, they're doing their thing, but
yeah.
Palantir's on a whole nother thing. For me, the thing that really kicked it off was like Edge AI. Like
Mhm.
I'm super crazy on it. I know it's sort of like a little bit obscured right now, but the main reason is because everybody's got AI and some machine learning. Okay, AI has been
Yeah.
this huge buzzword now, but these
Mhm.
guys are like, you know what? Let's not go crazy and make this like talking robot. Instead, why don't we take the usual business processes that people do every day,
Mhm.
do some sort of machine learning on that, and actually make something that helps people make decisions.
Yeah.
Like Edge AI can sit in like a satellite or some sort of like weird device that doesn't have much networking, doesn't have much of anything, perform efficiently and actually do what it's supposed to do in a better way.
Yeah.
So if we think about like a futuristic society, like something way, way, way down, like in any of the movies, right? They always have these little knick-knack robots that do stuff, and we take it for granted because it's in a movie.
Yeah.
But in a way, that could be the start of like something like really big in the
Yeah.
future. So for me, it's like they're actually doing something with it, right? They're
Yeah.
actually doing something real life. You can see the device, you can operate with it, and that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
that brought me into it, and then I started looking at Foundry, and that was like the holy shit. Like this thing is gonna start taking over. Like I really don't. That's why after that I was like, okay, we need sales and marketing to start pushing, man. Pedal this stuff.
So one of the things I want to just segue into is some of the question that I did get was, well, IoT's been, like, people have been talking about Internet of Things for the
Yeah,
last like 10 years. How
yeah,
come it hasn't become like this major thing? And I can tell you two reasons why I think it's never become like a major part of like the world's ecosystem right now. Is number one, until recently, until 5G, you need a large amount of data to constantly
yeah.
go back and forth. And then you also need it to be super, super low latency, right?
Oh yeah.
Whenever
Hmm.
let's say you're trying to have an autonomous car, make a decision, you do not want the autonomous car to have a slow internet connection to a cloud server somewhere in another country and then make a decision. right? You
It's
want
just like
that,
timing out.
yeah,
Just a
so
little beach ball.
yeah. So yeah, IoT was an idea 10 years ago that, hey, this would be something really nice to have, but none of that underlying technology was there yet. So you didn't have fast internet connections, right? So anytime you needed to download things, it wouldn't, it would take a while, blah, blah. The other thing is raw compute with GPUs, dude, raw compute has gone
Yeah.
from this to that. So
Yeah,
now
man.
you can have a situation where there is an artificial brain on that car that's able to kind of like
Yeah.
make those judgments and calls, right? What Palantir did is say, you know what? We're going to do something else. We're going to make sure that the software stack that you have is so compressed that guess what? We'll be able to connect that product anywhere in the world because they've been doing it because they were working with the military and doing it in a way where it's easily transmutable to that specific little thing where you
Yeah.
can have a Raspberry Pi with AI on it,
Yeah.
and
The
people are like,
Raspberry Pi is running
yeah,
all the M1 Abrams tanks.
yeah. I mean, essentially, you have to do it. It's, when you think about it, like drones, right? Drones cannot have a giant computer strapped to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the battery would be nothing, right? But
Yeah.
that drone's ability has to be still very complex. So how do you do that? Well, guess what? Hard drives, dude. Now nothing. They're with
SSDs and stuff.
SSDs and stuff,
Yeah.
much smaller, right? Same thing with computation, compute. You have all these chipsets that are coming out, super high efficiency, consume very little power, right? And now you also have connectivity with 5G. So you're getting to the point right now where all the necessary ingredients to make IoT successful
Yeah.
is starting to come together.
No, you're right. No, honestly, exactly that. I remember when I interned at BlackBerry like a long time ago, and it's unfortunate. We'll talk about that shit later. But basically,
Yeah,
those guys had this stuff. Like they were on this way before, like this whole IoT thing with beacons and all this stuff, right?
yeah,
That was the one problem they couldn't solve. They
yeah,
were like, we have all this great tech, but it can't operate in a small device with like low latency or just low compute, really, right? Like these
yeah,
things are like really small that do very basic tasks. So how are you going to put any kind of complex decision making software on it, right?
yeah,
Um, so that was one, and the second thing was the whole bandwidth thing. Like they couldn't get it because at that time they were using it was mostly for shipping, so they're trying to use satellite as much as possible. So
yeah,
the only thing I remember was they needed to have some guy actually go to containers and like test stuff, and
yeah,
it defeats the purpose.
yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. It might have been ahead of its time at
I
that
still
time.
remember because I was an investor in BlackBerry in 2012 and 2013 when
Yeah.
John Chen moved over from SAP, and
Oh
he kept
man,
talking about IoT. So that's how I got interested in
that's
IoT.
what it was. That's what it
This,
was.
this guy's gonna come in. He's gonna bring IoT to the world. And I'm like, 10 years later, I'm like, yo, bro, John, what's going on with this IoT thing? Is
Yeah.
that working?
Oh
You
man,
know?
I could tell you what it was at that time. We'll get into that in another pod.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, this was a good episode, man. This was fun.
Yeah, yeah, this is
I
great. I
wish
mean,
I wish there was actually people on here. I mean, we'll next time I think one of these days we could sit down and just figure out how to make this stupid thing work.
yeah,
You know?
I'm done. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then this way we can actually get some Q&A because I'm sure that once these other people want, they have tons of questions for us. Like
Oh,
why
for
is
sure,
this, why is that, and then
for
we can
sure.
interact with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Other than that, like we're already at 52. Let's go to 55. Let's see what
yeah.
kind of Netflix shows you watching, man. Are you a Netflix guy?
I am a Netflix guy, but recently, man, I'm a big Star Wars guy, so I've been
Yeah.
watching the Book of Boba Fett, and I love
Oh
it.
man,
I love
is
it,
it good? Tell me.
dude.
Me and my
It's
wife
so
have been
good.
waiting to watch that. We're pushing that and The
Yeah.
Expanse like way down. We're like, okay, let's watch everything else first.
It's really good. It's really
Really?
it's very like if you like the Mandalorian, you're
Yeah.
definitely gonna like
Okay.
you're
Okay.
gonna like the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Have you seen the show Expanse? The
I
Expanse?
haven't seen it yet, but I definitely that's like one of those things I keep hearing about, so I got to check it out for sure.
The Expanse is like space drama at its
Mhm.
best, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah.
Watch it from season one. It's really slow in the beginning, but it's quite good. Give it a
Okay.
shot. I can't spoil anything else for you. You got to watch it.
Okay. Sounds good,
But
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. I mean,
Was it on, is it
outside,
on Netflix?
no, it's on Amazon Prime Video.
Gotcha. I have that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely watch that.
Yeah, who doesn't have that? That's one thing about Amazon too. They include the Prime Video with the Prime membership. That's awesome, man.
Dude,
Holy crap.
Amazon figure out a way to get everyone to use their product. But the thing is, like, their entire model was customer first, right?
Yeah,
Like right now, if
yeah,
something didn't come in the mail, you call them, they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, And I remember like one time I ordered something and like 2 weeks later it got there and I was like, hey, this product you gave me credit
Yeah.
for. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to ship it back to you? They're like, it would probably cost us more to ship it back. Don't worry about it. Keep
Yeah,
it.
just
You
keep
got
it.
two
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah.
I was like, you're willing to eat the loss like that? They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, because they understood that customer service should be at the top of
Yeah, yeah.
the experience. My question is, what's going to happen to Amazon once Bezos leaves? Like,
Isn't he gone already?
huh?
He stepped
Well,
down,
I mean,
didn't
I think no, Bezos is. I think he's still technically the CEO, but
he?
he's
Yeah.
kind of like he's just chilling on the beach with his
Yeah.
like new girlfriend, man. He's just living it up,
He's
you
just
know.
chilling with Lauren Sanchez and shit.
Yep,
Like
yep, yep.
just chilling on a beach while she stares at Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's pretty funny when that happened, dude.
That
And
was so
you could,
sad, man. That was
yeah,
so sad.
you could see the thirst on her
Yeah.
face too. Like it was like,
It's like this guy.
yeah,
He
yeah.
has hair, you know?
Yo, this goes to show you could be the richest man in the world, have all this money, and at the end of the day, if you just don't have that it factor, sorry,
Yeah.
you got to have that alpha Chad. You know,
Yeah.
that's what Leo is. Leo's an alpha Chad.
Yeah. Yeah. Leo's awesome, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, man. Cool. I think we'll
All right.
sign off on this one. We successfully went over 55. Damn, dude, this is fun. We should do
Yeah,
this
man.
again.
I'm telling you. I love doing like interactive stuff like this. It's hard for
Yeah.
me to just talk to like the camera. But if I have someone on the other side, I was telling Dom the same thing. I was like, if you get me in front of a person, dude,
Yeah.
I could talk for hours. But if
Yeah.
you ask me to talk in front of a camera, I just don't have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, whoever is like, this is all recorded, so I'll post it. But if you guys want to follow Kris Patel. It's not Patel or Partel, whatever you put. It's Patel, all right?
The Kris Patel cartel.
Patel, the cartel. Yeah, follow Kris Patel at Kris Patel 99. The guy's just awesome researcher, man. Like a lot of us in the community really get a lot of information from him. And mine is just OG Cyber Fam, and you guys know if you're on the channel. So I think we'll leave you guys at that.
All right.
We'll record it, post it.
Yeah,
you guys have a great weekend. Martin Luther King Day is on Monday, right? So you guys have a good long weekend and eat safe and do all the barbecue and all the good stuff. So
take care. Have a good one, guys.
All right, man. Take care. Take care, Kris.
Bye.